Part 1. Every morning, Daniel walked the same trail through the quiet desert. The wind was dry, the sky wide, and the ground cracked under his boots. He liked the silence. It kept his mind still. That morning, the sun was already burning the sky, orange when he heard a sound. A soft cry. Weak. Like someone was calling for help. He stopped walking and looked around. At first, he saw nothing. Then, near an old cactus, he saw something lying on the ground. It was a woman. She was on her side, half buried in dust, her skin pale and sweating. Her hands shook, and her lips moved without sound. Daniel rushed over. Her ankle was swollen and red, fresh snakebite. A long rattlesnake slithered away into the bushes nearby. Daniel didn't waste time. He pulled out his knife, cut near the bite, and sucked the poison out. He spat into the dirt and wrapped her ankle with his bandana. Her breathing slowed, but her eyes stayed shut. He lifted her gently and carried her in his arms. She was light but weak, like she hadn't eaten or drunk water in days. Daniel walked fast through the trail and reached his small wooden cabin near the ridge. It was quiet there, no neighbors, just hills and sand. He laid her on his old cot and placed a wet cloth on her forehead. Then he waited. Hours passed. She finally opened her eyes in the late afternoon. Her voice was dry, barely a whisper. She looked at him, confused, scared. Then she said only one word. "Run." Daniel leaned closer. "What did you say?" But she had already fallen back asleep. That evening, Daniel went into town for supplies. He needed fresh water and medicine. Gray Ridge wasn't a big town. People there didn't trust strangers, and they didn't forget faces. When he walked in and bought medical supplies, Old Man Pete behind the counter asked, "You patching up someone?" Daniel didn't answer. But someone had seen him on the trail. By the time he left the store, 2 men outside gave him strange looks. One of them muttered, "Strangers bring trouble here." Daniel ignored them and rode back to his cabin. The woman was still asleep when he returned. He cleaned the wound again, made her a light soup, and left it on the table. She didn't eat, but he could see her breathing was stronger now. That night, the wind howled outside. Daniel sat near the window, watching the stars. He didn't sleep. Something about this woman didn't feel normal. She looked like someone running from something, or someone. Her clothes were dusty but expensive. Her hands were soft, not the hands of someone used to the desert. In the middle of the night, Daniel heard movement, soft footsteps. He stayed quiet and listened. The woman, still weak, had gotten up. She moved to the table and opened her bag slowly. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He didn't move from his chair but watched her closely. She reached inside and pulled something out. It was a gun. She checked it carefully, her fingers steady now, her eyes sharp. She didn't look lost anymore. She looked ready for something. Daniel finally spoke from the shadows. "You didn't tell me your name." She froze, then slowly looked toward him. The moonlight hit her face. There was no fear now. Just silence. Between them. She didn't answer. She put the gun back into the bag and zipped it shut. Then she whispered, "Thank you, but you should have left me there." Daniel said nothing. He just kept watching her, trying to understand who this woman really was, and why she carried a weapon in her sleep. Daniel didn't sleep that night. The woman stayed awake, too. She sat by the small window, staring into the darkness. The loaded gun rested in her lap. Every few minutes she would glance outside, as if expecting someone, or something, to appear. The cabin was silent except for the wind scratching at the wooden walls. Daniel finally spoke. You said to run. Why? She didn't look at him. Because they'll come. And if they find me here, they'll kill you too. Daniel's jaw tightened. He wasn't the type to run from danger, but he also didn't invite it. He studied her face, tired but alert, scared but strong. Who's coming? He asked. She looked at him now. Her voice was low. Bad men. I took something from them. Something they want back. Daniel waited, but she said nothing more. At sunrise, Daniel stepped outside. He needed to think. The sky was soft orange and the desert calm, but something didn't feel right. He noticed tracks near the ridge, fresh boot prints, deep in the dust. Someone had been close during the night. Watching, he returned inside. We need to move, he said. The woman, Maya, as he finally learned her name, nodded. She packed her things quickly, including the gun. But Daniel noticed her grip tighten on a small leather pouch. She kept it close to her chest, never letting it out of sight. What's in the pouch? He asked. Maya looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, Proof of who I really am. Daniel didn't ask again. They took his old truck and drove away from the cabin. Daniel didn't tell her where they were going. He had a place in mind, an old ranch once owned by a friend, hidden deep in the hills. They drove for hours under the burning sun. Dust followed them like a ghost. Maya barely spoke, her eyes watching the road behind them more than the road ahead. At a small gas station far from town, Daniel stopped to fill up. While he worked, Maya went inside to get water. She kept her head low, her hat pulled down, but as she walked past a payphone, it rang. She stopped. The store was empty. The clerk wasn't around, just the ringing phone. It rang again. Slowly, Maya reached for it. Her hand trembled. She answered. A voice, low and calm, spoke only 3 words. We see you. The line went dead. Maya dropped the phone and ran out, to the truck. We have to go, now. Daniel didn't ask. He just hit the gas and sped away. Back on the road, Maya explained between breaths. They're tracking me. Every move. I thought I had time. Who are they? Daniel asked again. She looked at him with tired eyes. Men who wear suits but carry guns. I used to work for them. Until I found out what they really do. I stole something they never wanted the world to see. Daniel gripped the wheel. And what does that make you? Maya turned to look out the window. A dead woman, unless I disappear. The truck climbed into the hills. They reached the old ranch by sunset. It was quiet, forgotten by time. The barn stood half broken, the house still standing but worn. Daniel helped Maya inside. She looked around, then sat on the floor, hugging the leather pouch. This place is safe? For now, Daniel said. That night, he stood guard with his rifle. The stars were bright above. Maya didn't sleep much. She kept the pouch beside her like a lifeline. Around midnight, Daniel saw a flash in the distance. Headlights, far off. Slow moving, coming their way. He called softly through the window. Maya, they found us. Maya grabbed her bag, opened the pouch, and showed Daniel what was inside for the first time. Documents, photos, maps, and a digital chip. This is proof, she said. They lied. They killed. They used innocent people. And I can expose them. All. Daniel looked at her, then out the window at the approaching lights. Then we better be ready, he said. Outside, the headlights kept coming. Closer and closer. And the night held its breath. The headlights stopped near the bottom of the hill. 2 black cars. Engines off. Doors opened. Shadows stepped out. Men in dark clothes, moving slow. careful. Daniel watched them from the broken barn window, his rifle ready. He didn't speak, but his jaw was tight, and his eyes followed every move. Inside the house, Maya stood near the back wall, clutching the pouch to her chest. Her face was pale, but her hands were steady. She knew this moment would come. She had been running for days, maybe weeks, but now there was no more road to run on. Daniel stepped inside. 5 men, maybe more. They're not rushing. They're waiting for something. Maya took a deep breath. They always wait until you feel safe, until you let your guard down. Then they strike. Daniel looked around the house. It had no back door, just one way in, one way out. This place won't hold them off for long, he said. If they come up, we'll need a plan. Maya opened her pouch again and showed him the digital chip. If I can send this to the right person, they'll be exposed, all of them. But I need a satellite signal, strong and clean, Daniel thought. There's an old tower on the ridge. It hasn't been used in years, but if the solar panel still works, maybe. Outside, a voice called out. Calm. Cold. Maya Quinn. We only want what belongs to us. Give it back and no one gets hurt. Daniel looked at her. They know your name. They know everything, she whispered. The voice spoke again. You're not alone in there. Don't make us hurt him too. Daniel raised his rifle. Let them try. They waited in silence for a moment. Then Maya moved quickly. We have to get to that tower, now. Daniel nodded. They gathered the pouch, water, and the rifle. Quietly, they slipped out the back window, down a side path covered in brush. Daniel had used it years ago while hunting. He hoped it still led to the ridge. The moon guided their way. The wind blew soft and cold. They climbed for almost an hour, boots crunching over dry rocks, hearts pounding in the quiet night. Behind them, the house was still dark. No gunfire, no chasing. But that only made it worse. The quiet meant danger was near. At the top of the ridge, the tower stood, rusted, but tall. A solar panel hung on the side. Maya climbed first, her hands fast and sure. Daniel followed, rifle strapped to his back. Inside the tower room, Maya connected the chip to an old terminal. The screen blinked, static. Then a signal bar appeared, weak but alive. It's working, she said, almost in shock. I can send everything. Daniel stood by the window watching the road below. Then he saw them, flashlights, moving up the hill. They're coming, he said. Maya pressed a button. Upload started, 20%. Daniel raised his rifle. We hold them off, long enough for the truth to get out. Maya looked at him. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, he said. You came into my life for a reason. I won't let them take that away. The flashlights came closer. 40%, Maya whispered. Gunshots rang out, sharp and fast. Bullets hit the tower's side. Daniel fired back. One of the lights dropped. Then another, but they kept coming. 60%. Daniel reloaded. His hands were calm, movements quick. He had been in fights before, but never like this. This was bigger. This was about truth, about standing for something. More bullets flew, the window shattered. Maya ducked. A sharp piece of glass cut her arm, but she didn't stop. 80%. Daniel was bleeding too. A bullet grazed his shoulder. He didn't flinch. One of the men reached the base of the tower. Daniel aimed and fired. Direct hit. The man fell. 95%, Maya said. Her fingers flew across the keys. The final moment felt like forever. Then, upload complete. Maya backed away from the computer. It's done. It's out there now. Below, Them, the men realized too late. The truth was already free, but they didn't stop. More shots came. Daniel grabbed Maya's hand. Time to disappear. They slid out the back of the tower and into the trees. They moved fast, silent, hidden by darkness. Behind them, angry shouts filled the night. But the fight was over. The truth was in the world now, and somewhere far away, someone would see it. But Daniel and Maya? They had to vanish before morning. The desert sun had not yet risen, but the air was already warm. Daniel and Maya moved quickly through the dry hills, their clothes covered in dust, their faces tired but focused. They hadn't slept. There was no time. Not after what happened at the tower. The information was out, yes, but that didn't mean they were safe. Now they were targets. Down in the valley, 2 black helicopters circled a nearby town. They were searching. The powerful men Maya had exposed wanted her back. Alive if possible, dead if not. Daniel kept glancing over his shoulder. They'll be using drones soon, he said. Heat sensors. We need to hide during the day. Maya nodded, holding the cloth tighter over her bleeding arm. There's a canyon up ahead, she said. Steep and narrow. They won't spot us from the air. They climbed down the rocks into the canyon just before sunrise. Inside, the air was cooler, the light dim. Birds chirped above. But otherwise, it was quiet. Safe. For now. Daniel stopped at a bend and turned to her. You need to rest. That cut is deep. Maya hesitated. We don't have time. You'll bleed out before sunset, he replied firmly. Sit. He tore his sleeve and wrapped it around her arm, tying it tight. Her eyes didn't leave his face. Why are you helping me? She asked softly. Daniel didn't answer right away. He stared at the dirt. Maybe because I've got no one left. Maybe because someone should do the right thing, even if it's hard. For a few hours, they rested beneath the rock shade. Maya dozed off for a short while, her head on Daniel's shoulder. When she woke, her voice was quiet. They won't. Stop, Daniel. Even with the truth out, they'll erase me to send a message. That's how they work. Then we'll stay ahead of them, he said. As long as it takes. But as the day went on, a noise filled the canyon. Soft at first, then louder. Drone. They had found them. Daniel grabbed Maya's hand and pulled her deeper into the canyon. They ran, feet slipping on rocks, lungs burning. The buzzing of the drone followed overhead like a hunter. Suddenly, they came to a dead end. A tall rock wall. Too high to climb. Maya's breath caught in her throat. We're trapped. Daniel looked around. His eyes scanned the rocks. Then he saw something. A small crack, half hidden by bushes. He rushed over and kicked the brush aside. Behind it was a narrow cave opening. Get in, he shouted. They crawled inside just as the drone passed overhead. Inside it was dark, damp, and silent. The only sound was their breathing. Hours passed. No footsteps, no searchlights. Night fell again. Daniel lit a small fire from dried sticks. Maya leaned against the cave wall, her voice shaky. I used to live in big cities. Fancy parties, expensive dresses. I thought I was untouchable. Then I found out what my father was part of. What they were doing. I couldn't stay silent. Daniel listened without a word. I lost everything, she whispered. Family, friends. Now they all think I'm dead. Daniel poked the fire gently. You're not dead. You're just reborn. Into the truth. She smiled faintly. That's poetic, cowboy. I read sometimes, he replied with a small smirk. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed outside. They rushed to the cave's entrance. Far away, smoke rose into the sky. Daniel pulled out a small radio. A voice crackled through. Scared. Fast. There's been an attack. A data leak. Someone high up was arrested. Chaos in the capital. Maya's eyes widened. It's happening. The world is reacting. Daniel looked at her. You did this. We did this, she corrected. They stared at the rising smoke. Somewhere, justice had begun, but closer. Danger was still very real. And the men in black? They were not finished yet. Far across the ridge, a tracker lit up. A blinking red dot. On a screen. One of the men in suits smirked. They're still alive. He turned to his team. Time to finish what we started. The wind howled over the open desert. Sharp grains of sand hit their faces as Daniel and Maya moved through the night. They were cold, hungry, wounded. But they didn't stop. They couldn't. Behind them, shadows followed, the men in black suits. Silent, skilled, and deadly. Daniel looked up at the stars, trying to find direction. We're near the old mining town, he said. Hardly anyone goes there. It's our best chance to hide before they close in. Maya nodded, holding her ribs where a bruise was growing darker. She had slipped during the escape from the canyon. Every step hurt, but her mind stayed sharp. They walked until broken buildings came into view. Wood creaked in the wind. Doors banged softly. Gray dust covered everything. The town was dead, but not useless. Daniel pushed open the door of an old saloon. Inside, broken tables and shattered bottles. But the back room had a trapdoor. He pulled it open, a cellar, cold and dark, but safe. They climbed down. Daniel lit a single candle. Shadows danced on the stone walls. Maya sat down on a crate, eyes tired. I heard something, she whispered. On the radio. A voice I recognized. Daniel waited. My father's partner. He's behind this. He's paying those men to find me. He knows I have the file, and he won't stop until it's gone. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then we hit him first. Maya looked up. What? We stop running, he said. We go to the source. If we don't, this never ends. She stared at him. You'd risk your life for me. He gave a quiet laugh. Too late to back out now, don't you think? She smiled faintly, but it faded fast. A sound came from above. Boots on wood. They had found them. Daniel quickly blew out the candle. Darkness swallowed them. He pressed his finger to his lips. Maya didn't move. Voices whispered above. Floorboards creaked. Then, silence. Suddenly the trapdoor burst open. A bright light hit Daniel's face. He grabbed Maya's hand. Run! They darted through a side tunnel Maya had spotted earlier. Bullets hit the stone behind them, sparks flying. The tunnel opened to the edge of town. They didn't stop. Ran shots echoed behind them. Daniel turned and fired twice with Maya's pistol, then pulled her behind an old truck. He loaded the last bullet. Only one left. Maya reached into her bag and pulled out a black drive. This is what they want, she said. Let's give it to them with a message. At sunrise, Maya climbed the water tower above the mining town. Daniel covered her from below. She attached the drive to a broadcasting node she had carried the whole way. A red light blinked. Upload. Started. Below, black cars rushed into town. The men had arrived. Daniel fought from the ground, using the last bullets to slow them down. But they were many. One man shot him in the shoulder. He fell behind a wall, bleeding. Maya saw it all from the tower. She screamed, but she didn't stop the upload. 7%, 92%. One man climbed the tower ladder, fast. Maya turned. It was him. Her father's partner, gray-haired, cold eyes. I told them you were dead, he said. I paid a fortune to make it so. Maya stood tall. Then you wasted your money. He raised his gun. But Maya had hers ready too. Bang. He fell. And the upload hit 100%. Maya whispered into the wind. It's done. The world would see everything now. All the secrets, all the crimes, all the money trails and deaths they tried to hide. Sirens echoed far away. Authorities were coming. Real ones this time. Down below, Daniel sat with his back against the truck, clutching his shoulder. He looked up as Maya climbed down the tower, her hands shaking. She knelt beside him. You okay? She asked. He smiled weakly. Never better. She laughed through tears. Liar. Truth hurts, he said, grinning. They sat there as the sun rose over the desert. Together. Blood on their clothes. Fire behind them, but free. The sound of sirens grew louder. Daniel lay against the old truck, bleeding but still conscious. Maya held his hand tightly. Her face was covered in dirt and sweat, but her eyes were clear. The broadcast had gone out. Everything was public now. Her father's partner. The money. The lies. The people hurt to keep the truth hidden. But there was still danger. Maya looked around. Black cars were still parked around the mining town. Some of the men had fled. Others had stayed behind. They knew the truth was out, but they still wanted to silence Maya and Daniel. The sound of helicopters filled the air. Maya stood and waved her arms. Dust swirled as 2 military helicopters landed near the edge of town. Out stepped men in green uniforms. U.S. authorities. Real ones. A man in uniform walked up to Maya. Are you Maya Keller? She nodded. You're safe now, he said. We received the signal. We have everything. We'll protect you. Maya stepped aside. He needs help. He saved my life. Medics rushed to Daniel. He tried to stand but collapsed. Maya caught him. I'm okay, he whispered. No, you're not, she said with a shaky smile. As they loaded Daniel into the helicopter, Maya climbed in beside him. She looked out at the mining town. Old, broken, forgotten, but to her it had become the place where everything changed. Hours later, in a secure hospital, Daniel opened his eyes. Bright white lights, clean sheets, pain in his shoulder, but not too bad. Maya sat beside him, her eyes red from crying, but she smiled the moment he woke up. Hey, cowboy, she said softly. Hey, trouble, he replied. She laughed gently and leaned in. It's over. They arrested everyone, even my father's partner. Turns out he was tied to other crimes too, international stuff. Daniel blinked. You really were carrying the weight of $1 billion mess. She smiled. And you carried me through it. He reached out and touched her hand. You didn't need saving. You just needed someone to stand beside you. She squeezed his hand back. A few weeks later, Daniel stood at the edge of a green hill, healed and healthy. Behind him was a small house. His house. And Maya's too. She stepped out wearing jeans, boots, and a smile that stopped his heart every time. You ready? She asked. He nodded. You sure about this? Maya looked out at the wide land ahead. After nearly dying in the desert, hiding from killers and exposing a billionaire crime network? Yeah, I'm sure. Daniel handed her a small key. It's yours, all of it. She frowned. What do you mean? This land, he said. I bought it, sold the old cabin, used my reward money. It's our land now. Maya looked shocked. You bought this whole valley? He smiled. You once gave me a reason to fight, so I gave you a place to breathe. She laughed, tears filling her eyes. You crazy cowboy. Daniel tipped his hat. And proud of it. They stood together, watching the wind blow through the grass, the sun shining down over the land that had once been dry and dangerous. Now it was full of peace and promise. Maya leaned her head on Daniel's shoulder. We never asked for this life. No, he said, but we built something better out of it. She looked up at him. You know what scares me most? He raised an eyebrow. What? That after everything, I almost never met you. Daniel looked into her eyes. But you did, and I'm not going anywhere. She smiled. Good, because I think I love you. He nodded. I know, because I love you too. As the sun dipped below the hills, they walked back to their home, hand in hand, hearts finally free. Their story had started with pain, fear, and secrets, but it ended with truth and love.